Welcome everybody. It is a very important lecture today. Swami Shivakantanandaji from Ramakrishna Mission, Mysuru, Karnataka, India is going to speak to us. He has kindly agreed to speak to us in spite of his very busy schedule. He will speak on a very, very important topic, which is which will be very dear to you, Vedanta for Salvation and Service. And for your information, we would also like to we would like you to know that next Sunday, same time, very senior monk of the order, Swami Nikhileshwaranandaji Maharaj, President Ramakrishna Mission, Rajkot, India, Rajkot, Gujarat, India, will speak on how to be happy. This will be a very, very interesting topic for all of us, especially our Filipino brothers and sisters. And Stephen, you will be very much interested in that talk. And today, before Swami Shivakantanandaji starts his lecture, I would request first Attorney Jana to speak a few words, especially for our Filipino brothers and sisters, to better internalize the topic so that they get maximum advantage. Then our minister in charge and our spiritual advisor, Swami Udaranandaji, will speak a few words, and then Swami Shivakantanandaji will start his lecture, for which we are eagerly waiting. So, Attorney Jena, you can please start.
Thank you, Nirmal Babu. Magandang hapon po sa lahat ng sumusubaybay sa ating Vedanta Talks na hatid po ng Ramakrishna Vedanta Society Philippines. This afternoon we'll be having Srimat Swami Shivakantanandaji, the Minister in charge of Mysuru, Karnataka, to speak about the Vedanta for Salvation and Service. So without further ado, I turn over now to Father Swami Udaranandaji. Thank you. Pranams to everyone.
Udaranandaji Maharaj, kindly speak. Mic is yours.
Thank you very much, Nirmal. Thank you very much, Attorney Jana. And thank you everybody for joining. I, on behalf of Ramakrishna Vedanta Society Philippines, welcome you all. We are very, very grateful to Swami Shivakantanandaji for kindly accepting our request to speak. We are very, very grateful. And he has selected a very good topic, which I think is a little bit difficult because these are three different topics, salvation, service, and this Vedanta, three different topics. But I hope we will cover it as much as possible. If it is not covered, we may do it in a separate sessions later on. And I am sure you will come out with question. Questioning is very important because then you learn more. I'm not saying that I'm forcing you to ask questions, but it is better if you come up with the questions. If you hear it attentively, definitely there will be many, many more questions to ask. So without much ado, I thank Maharaj once again for kindly accepting our request, and I welcome him with utmost gratitude. Thank you very much, Maharaj. The mic is yours. Thank you, Maharaj.
ओम स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतार वरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। ओम यथाग्नेर्दाहिका शक्तिः रामकृष्णे स्थिता हि सर्वविद्या स्वरूपां तां शारदां प्रणमाम्यहं। परतत्त्वे सदा लीनो रामकृष्ण समाज्ञया यो धर्म स्थापनरतो वीरेशं तं नमाम्यहम्। At the outset, I would like to offer my respectful pranams to Revered Swami Udaranandaji Maharaj, Minister in charge of the Philippines Center, for giving me an opportunity and recognizing me as one of the speakers for his web series. And I'm not a very well-known or a good speaker, but Swamiji is kind enough to give me an opportunity so that I can utilize this for my studies. That's how I think it is. Any lectures or any discourses that we do, even for a small preparation, we need to go through a lot of materials, and that will be of a great help for us. And that will be beneficial to an individual as well as to the people who listen to that. That is the system of Swadhyaya Pravachanabhyam na Pramuditavyam. That's what the Taittiriya Upanishad tells. The Swadhyaya and Pravachana should go together, and it is the order of the Shruti that will give a lot of the chances for many people to get liberated. This is the Guru Shishya Parampara that has been started from the time unknown in our Sanatana Dharma. Secondly, I would like to thank our Nirmalda to have been in touch with me for at least 2 months, which I had to take a rest because of the COVID, and he is kind enough to grant me another chance to speak to you all and all the people from the Philippines and other parts of the world. And I also thank Jana who is the coordinator for the whole program. So as you all know that Vedanta as the panacea for the salvation that is already been decided by the Upanishads. And another thing is that it is being brought down to from the caves of the Himalaya for the sake of this word, for the sake of this seva and the service. When Swami Vivekananda came back to India and landed in Colombo, you all know that he first came to India through Rameshwaram. There he gave a wonderful speech at the temple itself, which has been engraved on the stone, and it is pasted to the pillars of the temple even today, that seeing the God in the human being, worshipping the God in the human form, then worshipping the God in this temple in the form of a stone statue or a stone image is more better worship than doing a ritual worship. So this kind of self-knowledge, which was told in the Upanishads, in the Himalayas, because this self-knowledge of Ganga was brought down up to the beaches of the world, and the earth was sanctified by Swami Vivekananda. He took this Ganga from the Gangotri, and in the pictures, he took it across the shores of the world and threw everywhere to America and Europe. Just like Bhagirath, what he did, he brought the Ganga up to Gangotri. Swamiji took this sacred knowledge and gave it so wonderfully to the whole world. That is very important thing, that Swamiji's contributions. And secondly, we should analyze the present context. Sri Ramakrishna is the Yugavatar. He came to this world to interpret the sadhana and the teachings of the Vedanta to this modern world. This modern world is growing like anything. We are becoming globally one. Today we can witness that. I am sitting here in Mysuru, and you are all sitting in Philippines and some parts of the world, and we are all connected together in a fraction of a second. This is how this world is progressing, and all these progresses are happening for the sake of humanity. And a kind of oneness we are feeling today, and day by day it is progressing, and everything will be changed in course of time. The world is moving with so fast with our artificial intelligence and critical thinking. Everything is becoming digital. It is not that we can talk to the people at home. The whole world can be connected together. So we are becoming a universal human being, And when we are becoming the universal human being, we need to become enlightened citizens as Swami Ranganathananji has said. That enlightenment should come. We are still fighting in the name of religion, in the name of caste, in the name of so many divisions, political, economical, geographical divisions are there. But in the technological sense, these divisions aren't there. I can speak today to the countries of Arab, but the minds cannot be brought together. This is the lack of knowledge of the self. So the self must be taught. That's what Swami Vivekananda told. Teach the messages of Upanishads to each and everybody. What the Upanishad says is that Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma. Everything is Brahman. And when this everything is Brahman is told in the Upanishads, interpreted in the Upanishads by various Bhashyakaras in the olden days, it was used for the individual salvation. But Swami Vivekananda brought this down from the Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma to the practical field, the practical Vedanta, what he calls. It doesn't mean that the Vedanta was impractical in the earlier days, but the practice and the practicality of the Vedanta was restricted to the individual salvation. But Swami Vivekananda broadened the idea of Upanishads interpretation for the sake of the humanity, which is very, very important, especially today, because both Sri Ramakrishna and Swami Vivekananda are Yugavataras. They had a pre-plan. For the sake of this, bringing the precious stones from the caves of the Himalayas and to distribute freely, throw it to this whole world, Swami Vivekananda was brought down from the Saptarshi Mandala to this mortal earth, to this mundane world. So it is Swami Vivekananda showed the path that it is not only in the heart or in our intellect we need to realize the Brahman, but not only we should worship this Brahman, seeing the idol, seeing the yantra and seeing the mantra. So when Sri Ramakrishna was told, when he was in conversation, somebody told that this murti, the idol is Munmayi. He immediately told it is not Munmayi, it is Chinmayi. So we awaken the God in the image, we awaken the God in the yantra, we awaken the God in all our puja vessels and worship them, but we don't worship the human. So Swami Vivekananda told that the human being is the Taj Mahal of all the temples. This kind of seeing the human being as the Brahman himself, that's what I will tell you later, that how Dashamastomasi, when we remove the knowledge that I am also one in 10, other 9 people are there, they are also Brahman. And another person is I myself, who is also Brahman. Then the work becomes more meaningful and our life becomes fulfilled. That is the aptakama, that is fulfilling and removing the pain of others, using the tool of the self-knowledge, one of the greatest twist and the contribution of Swami Vivekananda. So this worship, what he wanted when he started Ramakrishna Mission, is so wonderfully practiced by our Ramakrishna and Ramakrishna Mission worldwide, and we are trying our best silently without making any noise in the world and doing this work, and as well as we are contemplating on ourselves. That is the motto of our Sangha. The Sangha's motto is Atmano mokshartham jagadhitaya cha. Realize, study, Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, you do. That I am Atman, I am free from all this, I am not the body, Mano Buddhi Hankara Chittani Naham, Nacha Shrotra Jishve, Nacha Ghram Netre, Nacha Vyoma Bhumin, Najona Vayu, Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham. Contemplate, go deep into your meditations, and come out and see that same God which you saw in your heart during meditation, and serve them. If they are sick, take them to hospital on your shoulders. Kalyananandaji, Nishchalanandaji did such work in Rishikesh. Swamiji told to Kalyananandaji, forget Bengal. And he did not come back, even he was called again and again to Bellumads because his Guru has told him to forget Bengal. And he served there wherever we are placed. Swamiji is serving in Philippines, another Swamiji is in Fiji, someone is in America. They are all seeing the same vibrations, the same feeling, because Brahman is everywhere. That Atman is everywhere. But the important thing was, in the earlier days, it was used either for the salvation or the negligence of the masses, negligence of this world. It was used as a tool only for the individual salvation. I am to get liberated. So if I want to get liberated, I don't want to get disturbed by the others. I don't want to get disturbed by the work. This we are seeing. We are seeing this whole philosophy of Advaita in a part. It was not been understood properly as a whole. We can do in the busiest streets of New York. If you can able to meditate, then that is the real meditation than meditating in a cave. That's what Sri Krishna also taught in Bhagavad Gita. We have to operate in this world. We should not get confused by that this word is something which is antagonistic to our peace of mind and antagonistic to our way of spiritual progress. We have to include this word. We have to include our every breath. We have to include our every action, every limb. And when we include this, and when we renounce our selfishness, and when we do every action, instead of offering somewhere to the idols of the god, and again all our karmapala we offer to God. But instead of doing that, you do the work for the sake of others. Instead of telling that I don't want any karmapala, you do your work for the sake of others. That is the karma yoga of Swami Vivekananda. And that is the karma yoga samanvaya of Swami Vivekananda. Whether we are doing the Raja Yoga during our meditation, whether we are doing the Bhakti Yoga during our puja, worship, and so the various upasanas individual. There are Kaula Marga, there is Sri Vidya Upasana. So many things are there. So many Bhakti Margas are there in our religion. And whether we are doing the Shravana Nidhyasana, that is the Jnana Marga of the knowledge of the Supreme, all these can be combined with karma. That's what Sri Krishna says. The person cannot stay without work even for a single moment. And even when we have so much of holidays nowadays, the Japan is thinking of giving the 3 days holiday and 4 days work, all these things we read. And even in those 3 days, we go out and we go to the beaches, we go here and there and come back. And it is a change of the place and change of the things, that's all. The man will not sit quiet. He will sit quiet for 3 days and do Japan Dhyana. No, he will not do that. So Swamiji saw all these things. The tendency of the householders, the tendency of the sannyasins becoming lethargic, and in the name of the meditation, they used to sleep, they used to chant, they used to be parasites on the society. We have seen how the Tibet got disintegrated because of the lamas were sitting on the few people who are doing the work. So Swamiji, when he went to the Vivekananda rap today of Kanyakumari, he saw that all these are nonsense. A few thousands of Swamis speaking about metaphysics for the empty stomachs. So, aham nija parovetti ganana lagutesasam udara chetasam dara vasudaiva kutumbakam. So, udara charitas, they say that aham nija parovetti. They will not say that. This is mine, I am this, and these children and wife are mine. He will not say that. Aham nija parovetti ganana lagutesasam udara charitanam tu vasudaiva kutumbakam. This universal approach is what is required. But in the process of doing this universal approach, we should not forget that ultimately we have to be liberated from this world. This Swami Vivekananda says, this world is a curly tail of dog. Whatever you do, you construct so many bridges. You make a wonderful the companies, and you earn a lot of money, like Bill Gates or someone else. All this you do, and he is doing ample amount of the charity also. So many things they have achieved, and they are doing the social service also. When Shambhu Mallika was doing a lot of social services, Swami Sri Ramakrishna told him that if God comes and stands before you and asks what boon you want, then what you will tell you, I want some hospitals, I want some chatras, I want some places where the poor people can sleep, I can distribute them the food. Will you ask all this, or will you ask the salvation? That's what Sri Ramakrishna tells. Though Sri Ramakrishna's the first teaching is that the goal of the human being is the realization of God. The goal of the human being is that there is no doubt about it, because all this physical appearance, all this mental thinking, all our intellectual faculty is only a tip of the iceberg. Our I-ness, that ahamtva, ahambhava, is something unknown. It is inside, deep inside. We have the expressions. Externally, we are doing all these small things. That's what they say in the Sri Ramakrishna says. This Brahman is such a big ocean. Many rishis who did the practice to realize the Brahman, the pure Ekatva, they went and saw that ocean, and they went into samadhi. And only a few people, like Shukamuni, he went and he drank a few morsels of the water from the ocean, and became swooned and became inundated in the Nirvikalpa Samadhi for several years. Like Swami Sri Ramakrishna also was in 6 months of Nirvikalpa Samadhi. That kind of he gives an example how this one small ant goes to the hill of the sugar and goes near and takes one piece of the sugar, and when it is returning, it says, after some time I will take the whole hill into my holes. That is how this one sugar is sufficient for it to get the diabetes, and it thinks that it can take the whole thing. It is so vast, and we are that Brahman, we are that Ananda Sagar, but we are covered by this Maya. And this Maya is nothing but limiting adjuncts. It is an adjective added to us. I am this, I am that, I am this, I am that. No, you remove all that added things, And what will all those pronouns, what will remain is the pure I. As long as we are covered by this Maya, we will be remaining like this. We remain ignorant, we remain small, confined. We think that this much is mine, this much the degrees I have, this is the job, this is the company where I go, where I work, I have an apartment, and this much I have, the bank balances. I use this, I use this for these people, I use this much for charity, I use this much for myself, and then as long as I'm here, I will be happy. These whole things happens in Maya. The world becomes real. We think that how this world can be unreal, how this world can be unreal, how this Advaita can say this world is unreal. This is how we think. This may not be true. It may be a very good things to sell, but it won't be happen. But remember, whatever the Upanishad is telling, this world is Maya, it is Maya. There is no doubt that these things are not existing. These things exist because of our lack of knowledge. Once this ajnana goes, that shines. That's what so many things are there. If I go on telling that, I will not be able to come to the real things, which Swami Shivakantananda has tried to interpret that Vedanta. A few things I can tell. This word is a mirage. This Maricha Udakavat, these Vedantins say. How it is, with this word is, as long as we see that this is real, we are thirsty in a desert, we go forward and forward thinking that that mirage has some water. We see that it is not a oasis, it is a mirage. When we pursue in this world for the sake of pleasure, that there is some joy in this. But what we have analyzed, that we are that ocean. Sri Ramakrishna says this, some salt doll went into the ocean to measure the depth of the ocean, and it merged into the ocean, dissolved into the ocean. So that is the reality of each and everything in this world. Today's science is also telling, if you go into the quantum physics, we see whether we are reading the Advaita or whether we are reading the quantum physics. There is no reality. It is something Sanghatatvam, Pararthatvam. Everything is composite. Everything is somehow rotating. Probably it rotates in that orbit. That's what the quantum physics says. Everything came from the one and it became many. And when that is the reality, we are occupied by this ignorance, because this Maya itself is the God himself is running this. When Surata and Samadhi in the Chandi, many Bengalis read that, when the Surata Samadhi went into the forest and sat under the feet of a Muni, he says, Jnaninam api chetamsi devi bhagavati hisa baladakrisha mohaya mahamaya prachin. There is a Mahamaya. What she do is, she will drag every individual Jivatma and she will throw them to the Maya. Because the world is operated by that Mahamaya, we cannot realize this. We cannot think that this world is unreal. Because that force is so much. And Muni gives an example how this Ahammamatva, mine, we die for our children and we die for our other things, many things which we have made them to support us. But those things are not permanent at all. And he gives an example how this bird, which sat on the eggs for several days without food, after the chicklings come out, it goes out and brings some insects or something. It is terribly hungry. It may die, but it will give it to its children. That is the Maya, he says. Patagancha vachanchishu. It drops it to its mouth, but it won't eat. That is because of the attachment. So that is what Shankara says in Viveka Chudamani. This Maya, how to define Maya? You cannot define Maya. It looks like real, it is not real. It looks like it can be touched, it is not touched. Sannapya sannapya bhatmikano, bhinnapya bhinnapya vyatmikano, sangapya nangapya vyatmikano, mahabhuta shanirvachaniya rupa. Whether it is real, we cannot say. Whether it is unreal, we cannot say. Whether it is sangha, it has some relation, no, we cannot say. Whether it has no relation, we cannot say. Whether it is separate, we cannot say. Whether it is unseparated, we cannot say. It is a wonderful expression of the God Himself, and we cannot express it. That is what he says. So this is what this. Why we had to do all this exercise? Telling that this is Maya, this is that, this is this, because we have to realize ourselves. As long as we think that this world is real, as long as we think that this world is real, then there is no salvation. But if you think that this world is real externally with all your dresses and this, but you will be contemplating on the mind, Sri Krishna says, Mityachara savuchyate. Yastindriyani manasa. Yes, the person who sacrifices the work for the sake of realizing outside, but inside the mind, he is not pure. He is thinking of all those sensual pleasures. He is thinking of eating some sweets inside the mind, but he is not eating outside. And we think that he is a great saint. But inside the mind also, you should not think of these pleasures. To them, Sri Krishna says, they are all Mityacharis. Sri Ramakrishna also says, if somebody is behind Kamini Kanchana and teaching Vedanta, I will pass the urine on his Vedanta, on his Shastras. That's what Guru Maharaj says. That means to say that the Tyaga is important. To develop this Tyaga and Vairagya, that is, renounce. Vedo nityamaditam taduditam karma swanushthiyatam tenecitam vidhiyatam upachiti kamye manastyajatam pava paridhoyatam bhavasuke doshonusandiyatam. In the bhava, that is in this world, we should see the defects. Defects in all the objects that we think we think that they give pleasure tomorrow. There is no pleasure. Sri Ramakrishna gives a wonderful example how this camel goes and eats these thorny bushes, and it will be bleeding. Its tongue is cut, its mouth is cut, it will be bleeding, and that blood also it sucks. And that blood is only the tasty thing, but it is not a thorn that is giving it is that joy. But it eats. It knows that its mouth gets bleeding, but it eats. So he also compares this whole world to the hog plum. There is no fruit or a pulp in it, but it is full of seeds. So that is why these Upanishads, for the sake of moksha, that is for the liberation, it gives the jnana. Tadidam moksha sadhanam jnanam sadhana sadhya nityadi asmad viraktaya tatyakta putra vitta lokeshanaya pratipanna parama hamsa parivrajaya. It is given for the people to renounce this world so that they can realize the highest. So we first go into this world as lay people. We are brought up by our parents. They say that you have to study, you have to become big, you have to get married, you have to get some cars and bungalows. And we all see the people around are all doing the same thing. So we go running behind everything. But kaschid dhira pratyagatmana aikshate avrutta chakshuhu amritatvam. Only a few people, a few brave people, they pratyagatmana aikshate, nachiketa. They what they will do? Amrutatvam ichan. They wanted the nectar. So what they will do? Pariksha lokam. They will test this word. We are all testing this word still. From several births, we are testing whether this will give something to us. Ultimately, all these things will give some joy. We are all testing. We have shifted our apartments. We have taken we have sold these old cars to the second-hand the showroom, and we have bought the new cars. Everything we are doing, and after a few days, again it will not give the pleasure. And in the similar fashion, today's divorce happens. So all these things, we are changing the objects, thinking that the new objects will give the pleasure, and the old objects are not to be relied upon. I did a mistake. But it is not so. Everything belongs to this word, which doesn't give the pleasure. The Atma Vidya only gives the pleasure. And that Shruti knows very well. That is what it is teaching. Leave all those things and come. It doesn't mean that everything we have to leave it suddenly. It doesn't mean that we have to leave tomorrow and do it. It won't happen like that. Because work is eternal, we have to work. And second thing is, purification of the mind is not so easy. So whatever we are doing, we have to, Sri Ramakrishna says, in the corner of your chadar there, you tie something, you tie a stone or you tie itself, and you keep touching that so that you remember an important thing. In the old days they used to do like that perhaps, so that you will be remembering that I am the servant of the God. You are remembering I am the yogi, I am the jnani. This much is enough. So why we have to study Upanishads again and again, even though we don't become jnanis and say that all these are mithya. We may say in the mouth, but we are not really this anubhava satya. We should feel that this is mithya. Then only that is a real jnana. Now whatever, I am also doing the same thing. I will read from the Upanishads and I will think like this, and again I will be doing the same thing. If I touch the fire, I feel I'm burned like that. And it all happens at the indriya level, the senses level. But in the deeper level, it won't happen. But we are all trying. We are all at some distance or the other to the ultimate goal. That is what happening. So what that real sadhaka will do is, he will think that by following the Atma, Atmanaha Shrese Santatye Bhavati. So what he will do? Samitpani Shrotriyam Brahmavitta. He will go to the teacher. Acharyavan Purusho Veda Sammik Jnanam Plavaiha Uchyate Ityadi Shrutibhya. Then he will say, oh, I have to go to a teacher. I have to go to a Guru Parampara. I have to get the Diksha. Then I will be out of all these entanglements. I will be out of all these problems, and I will become free from these meshes of the world. This Maya Moha Jala can be removed from this. So he wants to become Brahmavit, Brahmani Stitaha, Damba, Darpa, Kuhaka, all these things he will leave. So when you go to the Guru will say, Sadeva Somya Idamagamasi. Before this creation, this world was one as one. It was Ekameva Dvitiyam. Yatra Nanyat Pashyati Atmaveva Idam Sarvam Atmava Idameka Eva Gramasit Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma. All these things, all these Upadesha he became. When Arjuna had the doubt about whether I had to kill these people. Sri Krishna also did the same thing in the Guru Shishya Parampara. First he gave the highest knowledge. Nainam chinnanti shastrani, nainam dahati pavakha, najainam kledayantyapo, nashosheti marutaha, achedyo yamadahyoyam, akledyo shoshyavatya, nitya sarvagata sthano. Like this, the Guru will first tell you that you are the highest thing. You are not the body. If I cut your hand, you are not cut. If your clothes are taken off, you are not. So he will give the highest knowledge. Then these things start. Once you have that renunciation, the feeling that I had to get rid of all this, that Atma, knowledge of Atman, if you have the seriousness about it, then after hearing this, you have to make this neti neti varga. You should say, this is not Brahman, this is not Brahman, this is not Brahman. Iti iti comes afterwards. Sri Ramakrishna gives a very beautiful example. Very good servant, very loyal servant was there for a landlord or for a rich person. He used to love his master so much. He did not want anything. The master's presence, the master touch, and the master service is enough for him. Such kind of servant. He goes inside the personal room of his master, and this master is sleeping on a big cot, and it's such a big room, and it is dark. So he goes inside and touches the table, touches the pot, touches the wall, and says, "Oh, this is not my master. This is not my master. This is not my master." Then he goes near the bed. Oh, he touches the cot. This is not my master. He touches the bed. This is not my master. He touches the bedspread. This is not my master. Then finally he touches the feet of master. Oh, this is my master. This is neti neti marga. This is neti neti marga. Then when he touches the master, he may not tell that, oh, this is my master, because he already knows that this is the master. So yato vacho nivartante. Then once we touch that master, we need not have to tell that the master is here. So that is what. So this Brahma, aham yat sakshat aparokshat Brahma, neti neti astulam ananu sayesha neti adrushtam drashtu vijnanam anandam satyam jnanam anantam sava esha mahanaja atma sabahyan abhyantaro hyajaha vijnana ghana eva. This is a solid vijnana, that solid knowledge. There is not even an atom of space in that. We do such metals which has no bubbles inside. Something like that. It is that you are Tattvamasi. This is what the great Upanishad tells. But the problem which we had, all those people were selective, because we need a adhikari. Is there anybody who says that this word I do not want and go to the forest and seek some master and get this knowledge? No. Most of us doesn't need it. That is why it was kept in a cave. It was kept in to the selected people. But this was highest. This was something great. So this word nowadays, which is getting converted into the word of knowledge. Nowadays, people will easily do PhDs using the websites, whether they do by copy pasting or not, whatever it may be. People are behind the knowledge. People are reducing the work by doing the automations. And nowadays, within a few years, the driverless car will come and drivers will go. And autopilot will come in the aeroplanes also. There is no need of the pilots. Everything will happen today or tomorrow. The people can travel through Hyperloop, where it can travel in 760 kilometers. There is no need of constructing a big airports or destroying the forest. People are becoming aware of the pollutions that is happening. All these things are happening and people's work starts reducing. And when work starts reducing, the unemployment starts. The people become chaos and panic. But they don't know that they need not have to acquire so much of richness. We can share our richness. We need not have to keep in the banks and worry about tomorrow, because we don't need so much. And Catholicity comes. The service attitude should come. And if you don't give this kind of highest knowledge that we are all one, let us share it. Let us have it together. Sangachadvam, samvadattam, sammo manaam sijayatam. Everybody has enough food to eat. So, but one way of the thinking has not succeeded, like socialism. This is a kind of socialism where we share our richness and so that everybody lives together. So neither the capitalism nor socialism nor democracy is successful. So that is why Swami Vivekananda said the Vedanta will be the future religion. The Vedanta has the concept of oneness which can unite this whole world. When we are united in the supreme knowledge, every problems that we are seeing in this today's world will be solved. The objects are coming, the new things are coming for the sake of human being, but the human being is divided, he is unhappy. He wanted to break this division in the name of religion. And that is what in the September 11, 1893, he gave such a wonderful lecture there. There he showed that the religions are fighting and it is creating a great division and it has spilled the blood across the world. So he told in the same breath of Swami, his Guru Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, etopat tatopat, etomat tatopat. So this as many faiths, so many paths. This is also an Advaita Vedanta, that we go through different paths, but finally we reach the same goal. So this synthesis of yoga is the practice in all types of the religion, but only the mental attitude will be different. Different in the sense that it is suitable for me. As Sri Ramakrishna says, the mother makes the fish, same fish, she makes 5 dishes so that some may not be able to digest the spice, he may have the acidity, some may wants to relish the spice, for them she will do a spicy fried things, or for the people who cannot digest her children, he will give only soup. So but the fish is same, the ingredient is same. For me, this is suitable. For the others, something else is suitable. But the Satya is one, and we have to go behind that Satya through various means. So that practical Vedanta of Swami Vivekananda brought this Shuddha Advaita Vedanta of Shankara to make this postulate, this Paramarthika Satya, into this Vyavaharika Satya also. Shankara separated this Paramarthika Satya and Vyavaharika Satya. Swami Vivekananda united this Paramarthika Satya and poured this Paramarthika Satya into Vyavaharika Satya, so that the vast majority of the people who are dwelling in the Vyavaharika Satya can also get benefited by that knowledge preached in Upanishad of Paramarthika Satya. That is why Swamiji's words were so powerful. It entered into the veins of the people. That's what Roma Rola says, that when he read the complete works, I cannot touch these words at the distance of 30 years without receiving a thrill like electrical shock in my body. And what thrill and what transpose that might have been produced, that might have happened to the audience when it was issued from the lips of the hero. Because Swami Vivekananda spoke Upanishads and Upanishads alone. It is a fire and it is the energy, it is the source, and it is the inspiration which inspires everything, whether it is spiritual, whether it is religious, whether it is the ephemeral. Everything is, that is the Jyoti, that is the Jyoti of all the Jyotis, effulgence of all the Jyotis. So we have to develop certain amount of intellect to understand our real nature. This is what the teachings of the Upanishads, Drishyate Tvagreya Buddhya Sukshmaya Sukshmadarshibhihi. That we had to sharpen our intellect like the blade of the grass so that we can cut at least some parts of the skin. Some procedures are there to cut the tongue with the blade of the grass. All this can happen only our intellect is sharp. So that is why in the schools of Shankara there is a importance to develop this intelligence. This is a pure intelligence. This buddhi is atma to ratinam vidhi Charina Matametu Buddhintu Sarathim Vidhi Manah Pragraham Evacha. That's what Kathopanishad says. Buddhi is the Sarathi. He is the master of this whole thing. And he is the Sarathi. We should have the pure Buddhi. This purity of the Buddhi happens by the knowledge of Upanishads. Even by repetition of the Upanishad Vakyas, it purifies us. We need not have to understand that to that extent where the great scholars understand, the great rishis understand, but even by repetition, that will happen. So we have to give an importance, a good chunk of time in reading the Upanishads, in reading the commentaries, in reading how Swamiji analyzes the words of the Upanishads. That's what Swami Vivekananda did in some of the lectures. I will read a few paragraphs from his Practical Vedanta Part 1, which he delivered in London on 10th November 1896, and I will close my speech. I have been asked to say something about the practical position of Vedanta philosophy. As I have told you, theory is very good indeed, but how are we to carry it into practice? If it be possible, impracticable, no theory of any value whatever except as intellectual gymnastics. So, if this practical Vedanta, the Vedanta is only a theory, there is no use of it. So, it must be practical. So, it was practical, no doubt, for an individual salvation, but he wanted that such a wonderful, noble idea for the salvation, for the good, for the service of men. Because the people who have realized this can also come out and do services. And when such people do services, it will be more nobler, more purer, more perfect, and reaches many. He can inspire many. A person who has renounced this world, who has renounced his pleasures, his home and earth, he can do a better work for the world and for the society than the person who has something for him and also works for the others. So by such people, he wanted to start the monastery not for the sake of the realization of those few monastics. He wanted to start the monastery so that these monks will go and serve the people, will forget their health, will forget their realization, but they will keep that tyaga, the spirit of Tyaga of the Upanishads intact, that they will not leave. That there is, we don't, the mission doesn't allow that, but yet they will be working for the sake of others. So many people have developed different kind of diseases in the process of doing seva yoga, and they have sacrificed their life. That sacrifice, Swamiji calls for the sacrifice of the people. So I will enter gradually on the practical side as we proceed, but this series of lecture is intended to be a basis, and so we must first apply ourselves to theories and understand how they are worked out. Proceedings from the forest caves to busy streets and cities. And one peculiar feature we find is that many of these thoughts have been the outcome not of retirement into forest, but have emanated from the persons whom we expect to lead the busiest lives from ruling monarchs. He gives an example from the Upanishads. A boy, the Shvetaketu, the son of Aruni, goes to the city, and in the city there was a king called Jaivali, Pravahana Jaivali. He asked this boy, "Do you know Do you know how beings depart hence to death? How they go from this body to the death?" He says, "No, sir, I do not know." "Do you know the way of the fathers and the way of gods with through Devata paths, you know?" He says, "I do not know." Then this king takes his chariot back, and silently he looks at the boy and goes back. Then this boy becomes perplexed. I don't have full knowledge then. He goes back to the father and asks, "Father, this king is asking all these things. What is all these things?" Father also says, "I do not know. These things, evam rajarshaya viduhu. These things only rajarshis know." So Swamiji is appreciating those people who are intensely occupied, but yet they possess the knowledge. We also should become rajarshis, what he wanted. So, in various Upanishads, we find that this Vedanta philosophy is not the outcome of meditation in the forest, but the very best parts of it were thought out and expressed by brains which were busiest in the everyday affairs of life. He says that there were absolute monarchs. Absolute monarchs means not like today's prime minister who will be having the finance minister, who will be having the home minister, who will be having the so many types of ministers, and under their minister there will be secretariat. Not such people. They themselves used to handle everything. They used to take the decision. Such people used to tell that. So that kind of the practical rishis, the practical jnanis, that Bhagavad Gita also tells that within the din and bustle of our life, we have to be practical. Everything goes to show that this philosophy must be very practical. And later on, when we come to Bhagavad Gita, most of you perhaps have read it. It is the best commentary we have on the Vedanta philosophy. Curiosity, the scene is laid in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, where Krishna teaches this philosophy to Arjuna, and the doctrine which stands out luminously in every page of Gita is intense activity. But in the midst of it, eternal calmness. This is the secret of the work. In other place, he appreciates Arjuna that he was a person who was the Senadipati, the leader of the commander of the whole the Pandavas, and he has to lead, and he did that. But he did that after obtaining the highest supreme knowledge of the Atma. So the real activity, which is the goal of the Vedanta, is combined with the eternal calmness, the calmness which cannot be ruffled, the balance of mind which is never disturbed. Whatever happens, we all know from our experience in life that this is the best attitude. The attitude of the Jnani in the world is the best than the attitude of the Baddha. The Jivan Mukta can give the highest expression to that all-pervading Atman and bring the energy of the Atman directly to this world. He can make this world filled with the effulgence of Atman because his expression his convictions, his knowledge, his everything is there in him. And he is seeing the Brahman everywhere with the new knowledge of Swami Vivekananda. And he is operating this world. He is operating the service units. He is operating all this. This is what our monks are doing. They are trying, and that is why they are doing so wonderfully, but their name doesn't come. It is working. How it is possible? Because we are behind the screen. That doesn't have name. The Atman has no name. So we don't want any name. We don't want any name. Mission doesn't want any name and fame, but the work happens because of the sacrifice of a few hundreds who can also inspire many people to practice the knowledge and work combined so that whatever they get, except for a few requirements of their own, is sacrificed for the sake of everybody. This is what is the, for you must always remember that one central idea of Vedanta is this oneness. There are no two in anything, no two lives, not even two different kinds of life for the two words. You will find the Vedas speaking of heavens and things like that at first, but later on, when they come to the highest ideals of their philosophy, they brush away all these things. There is but one life, one word, one existence. Everything is that one. The difference is in degree and not in kind. The difference between our life is not in kind. Vedanta entirely denies such ideas as that animals are separate from men and that they were made and created by God to be used for our food. So Vedanta unifies everything, and with one sense of Vedanta, we had to do what we had to do is the best we can do is sacrifice our own selfish motives and do this seva yoga. But when we are doing this seva yoga, we should again and again and again and again repeat in ourselves, feel in ourselves, experience ourselves that we are all one, we are all separate. There is no difference. I am not something I am giving to others. By giving this, they have given me the opportunity to fulfill my aspiration of salvation. So this group of sannyasis, their way of working is totally different and totally special. They are doing this work as a humble opportunity given by the people who are suffering, and they feel that they are fulfilled, that Attakama, Purnakama is coming by giving the services to others. By that, there is a joy. That is also an Atmananda. Serving the others, sacrificing our time for the others, is also gives a spiritual joy, because we are not doing anything for our own body, our own mind, our own senses. So those things will drop off, and how we merge with a universal oneness when we are doing the service. This service, with this idea of service, gives the meditation with the open eyes on the Brahman. We need not have to go to the caves. We can be here, and we need not have to close the eyes. When we close the eyes, only we see the Brahman. When we open the eyes, we see the world. That is not the philosophy of Vedanta. We had to be able to perceive this Brahman even at every fraction of the second. That is the real Vedanta. That is the real Anubhava. That is the real oneness. Swami Abhinananda, a great disciple of Sri Ramakrishna and also a brother disciple of Swamiji, went to West. You all know that he also taught the Vedanta in the Universal Religion and Vedanta lecture. He says that there I pointed out, he is referring to some other lecture. I will go through it for one more minute. Please allow me. There I pointed out that at the time of creation, man was divided into two halves. One half became male and other half became female. This is nothing but Ardhanarishvara concept. And that women had equal rights with man. But where are women today in India? So Swami Vivekananda came for the poor, came for the women, came for the downtrodden. came for those who are oppressed, because he found Atman in every being. He found that this condition, this has to go. He became very much disgusted with the kind of condition in India. And when he went to West, he gave them the knowledge of Vedanta. He knew that they're all well developed, they're all rich, they're all feeling that kind of equality, and they're not the people. All the people in those developed countries were not so poor. So he combined this idea of organization of the West and the spirituality. He gave them so freely. But when he came here, he gave a death blow to all this lethargy which was there in our country. And even poor people are satisfied. Okay, we will wear these ragged clothes, the torn clothes, and we will remain because the God has given like this. This is nothing but a lethargy. The roads are not good. There is no proper water to drink. There is no proper clothes to wear. All these were the conditions of India. It is very disgusting. It is not the religion. This is not the religion. If you say that this is the religion, it is not correct. This is not the way the human being should live. It is not. This is the way the animals might live. That is what this kind of impractical Vedanta was engulfing the India. So he brought that kind of vigor which Americans and Japanese had to India, and took this the pristine glory of the Upanishads, gave it to Americans, and then the people realized, oh, we have great treasures inside, and why shouldn't we use it? And the whole world has started using. So Abhinananda continues Swami Vivekananda and live up to the ideas of Bhagavan Sri Ramakrishna. Now we see that within 30 years of his death, we have spread his ideals all over the world, from Calcutta to antipodes. In New York, we have spread the principles of Sri Ramakrishna, and he is deeply respected there. Now this photograph is worshipped, and he is held, respected there. Now his photograph is worshipped, and he is held and respected there. Now this photograph is held as the ideal incarnation of divinity. So it is now high time for you to recognize Sri Ramakrishna as your ideal, and if you do not recognize him as your ideal, you will be the loser. Sanatana Dharma, when properly established, will bring freedom to our soul, freedom in our community, freedom in our politics, and freedom as represented in the Shastras, which is the highest ideal of all religion. It is beautifully described in Upanishads as to what will happen when that freedom comes. The highest realization of oneness with the divinity will come at that time, and then will also come what is mentioned in this verse which I chant before you before I conclude. Vidyate hridaya grantihi chidyante sarva samshayaha kshiyante chasya karmani tasmin drushte paravare. That is, when that realization of self or Brahman comes, all doubts will cease forever. All the knots will be torn asunder, and all the individual souls will transcend the laws of karma and will become absolutely free from all limitations, and will enter into the infinite abode of eternal existence, endless bliss, and everlasting life. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Tat Sat. Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.
Thank you, Maharajji, for your such enlightened, insightful, and beautiful lecture on Vedanta for Salvation and Service. Some of the very important takeaways from your discourse: the realization of the God is the main aim. Vedanta has concept of oneness, as many faiths, so many paths, but we reach the same goal. Truth is one. The Vivekananda has brought the Vedanta of the forest to the Vedanta of practical life, which you mentioned as practical Vedanta. And you talked about Vedanta for service. So before we have a few more questions, one thought inquires my mind. Philippines has got an accrediting agency for giving accreditation to the religious and spiritual organization. And every time we go to them, they raise a question that you are doing a lot of this social service, food for the poor, or distribution of milk to the poor children, but where you should be doing your spiritual activities. We try to tell in so many ways that Jagat Hitaya, Atma Atma Mokshaya and Jagat Hitaya Cha. That is the aim of our mission. Our mission is both service and spiritual upliftment or realization. And through service only, service is nothing external, but service is kind of way of our having better self-realization and realization of God. So in this respect, an insight from you may help. Maybe we can better internalize to them what do we mean by service. Thank you, Maharaj.
Yeah, that is a very interesting question. Yes, in a countries like Philippines, there may not be so many poor people, or the government will be doing all the necessary services through themselves or through NGOs. So when you go into those kind of services, they may feel that why they are doing, they are supposed to do only this kind of spiritual discourses which will help people in their spirituality, like a Buddhist monks or anything of that sort. But having said that, as you said, that is the kind of organization that we are. That we do not simply do only one part. That is only spiritual discourses like Chinmaya Mission, Dayanand Saraswati's, where they are mainly involved in the preaching the Vedanta only, and nothing much more service except printing the publication the books like that. But that ideal of service is the real mirror of our Vedantic knowledge. And secondly, the man is not just a person who reads the book and keeps it behind. We have our limbs, we have the emotions, we have the psychology of attachment to the people. But through the study of Vedanta, through the study of scriptures, by developing the spirituality, this circle of the attachment and affection becomes wider and wider. So when Swami Vivekananda was sleeping, and he had a premonition that something has happened and many people are suffering, and next day in the newspaper it comes out somewhere in Fiji or so, I don't remember, that a great earthquake had happened and thousands of people died. So how he could connect himself to the sufferings of those people who were dying. So that is the way that Vedanti goes. So when we as an Vedanti see the sufferings of others, even it may not be the dying starvation, but you are helping the people who are malnutrition, nourished. You are feeling. When there is no feeling, that is not a real spirituality. Simply saying that this suffering is their karma, then when somebody comes, the Hindu group or association comes and asks Swamiji about the giving some donation to their cows for taking care of the cows which are becoming nomads here and there, and he says that you do something for the human beings also along with the cows. Oh, human beings suffer because of their karma. Why should we do? Then he admonishes them. The cow also suffers because of its karma. Why do you worry? So human being is very important. So we have to tell them that yes, you are correct. We are doing the preachings also. See, we are conducting the webinars, but we cannot do that alone, because the expression of a real compassion to others, seeing God in others has to be expressed outside also. So we do this supply of milk, supply of nutritions. We work in hospitals. All this is in part. So even in our branches, we don't have. So Sri Ramakrishna himself says in the rules book, ours becomes takur body if you do not serve the people. So it is a part and parcel of us, and it is giving us a joy more than any schools of or the monasteries which is oriented for the self-realization.
Thank you very much. Very useful, Maharajji. We'll bear it in mind and we'll try to explain them in more structured way as guided by
Yes.
you. And please ask your question, whatever doubts, thoughts, or one by one you can ask.
Jana wants to ask something.
Attorney Jana, please ask your question.
Rana Maharaj, actually, it's not a question, but it's a matter of, again, insight. As you said, Nirmal Babu, regarding the registration for the religious organizations, I would say that on behalf of the Filipinos, I think there's more of a stubbornness in the framework or paradigm, precisely because majority of us are Christians and we are heavily in the Bhakta kind of tradition. And I've been listening lately to the Bhagavad Gita lecture series of Swami Sarvapriyananda via Spotify, and he mentioned about karma yoga in a very different paradigm this time, because Filipinos have this notion that karma is as simple as, in the Bible, you sow as you sow, then you shall reap, and it is as easy as that. It's like a boomerang. Once you do something, it must return to you in that same manner. But the thing that the lectures gave the insight about spiritualizing work. And I think that's the thing that the Vedanta Philippines is doing. Like we are spiritualizing work, like giving milk, giving those. Not only that, there are a lot of things that are no, not even mentioned. We don't even make it so publicly. But the thing is, there's not so much anything of expectation of a return, and that is something that is not so that is peculiar with the Vedantic paradigm, of which most Filipinos or Catholic are not so how should I say, not so accustomed to. That's a term. We are not so used to that kind, because people here. I don't want to make so much of a generalization, but most of people, it's a human nature that when you do something, you have to get something in return. However, the thing that we do, like people are surprised. I'm doing photography and video services for free. Like I don't get paid for it. Why should I expect something? I mean, I don't need to be recognized or anything. But it's that spiritualizing the work, and it's karma yoga in itself. And then people will be, let's say, scandalized by that term. Like, you don't get anything out of it, material wise. But I think it's a matter of paradigm. That when you tell them in that light, they will not be so much welcome to it, because when you look at the churches, we have feasts every week of saints, pictures of Santo Niño, pictures of Jesus, Mama Mary in the midst of, in our living room, everywhere. So when you say that in the registration, Ramakrishna Vedanta Society Philippines is doing this and that, they're like, so where are your rituals? Where are your worship? Those things, the mechanics of, so to speak. So of course, I think that's a kind of paradigm that differentiates Vedanta from most Christian traditions. So that's just about it. But if you need help, I might be, I might also be of service to the registration should you need that also, Sir Nirmal. Thank you. Thank you, Swami Shivakantananda, for this very insightful lecture. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Jana, for your very useful comments, and we will use when we have our next meeting. Maybe we'll seek your practical guidance, which will help us to communicate better to them, so that they can understand and appreciate our point of view more effectively and more clearly. So next question, Stephen, do you have any question?
Swamiji, I'd like to ask, is there how do you balance your religious duties from your duties for your family and yourself? That's my question.
Oh, that means our pre-monastic families.
Our natural family.
Oh, no, we have left already. So we do not have any commitments to our own home, our parents and those.
What Stephen is, Maharaji, what Stephen is meaning for householders, how do we harmonize? How do we harmonize? That is his question.
How do you harmonize? Can you repeat?
How do householders harmonize their domestic duties and spiritual commitments
Or for your families?
for your families?
Yeah, that is the challenge that we have always. Even for us, we are sitting in the monastery, but we also had to undergo a lot of a situation where it entangles us. It makes us to worry and think about it, plan about it. So the aspect of combining the work and our attitude of oneness with the God is always challenging, because although we try to become spiritual, it is a common aspect in everybody's life that at some stage of the life we start looking within and start reading the books related to the religion, spirituality, the divine, and the spiritual masters. All these things begins. That is the sign that this world is not giving me the exact the fulfillments and the bliss that I need. So we become slowly gets detached. But the degree of detachment, the percentage of detachment varies from one spiritual aspirant to another spiritual aspirant. A new entrant, a person who is already a veteran, all these things are there. And coming to your question is that we have to first hold on to that somehow. Initially, by practicing on the early hours of the morning and the evening, at least if not possible, in the compulsorily in the early hours of morning, whatever path. As Jana was telling, they have the path which is not so Vedantic. It's more bhakti related, a devotional type. And secondly, it is not so easy to leave the fruits of action. And whatever we try to do, we expect something from that. All these things will be there. But we have this, the yoga says, klesha aklesha vritti. Klesha means that which tries to bind us to the word, and aklesha vritti is something which removes, purifies our mind and unbinds, unlocks, and removes us from the world. And what is happening is in our mind, both we have started new practices. 1 or 2 drops of Ganga we are putting into the muddy water of our mind, which is not pure, which is expecting, which has desires. Whatever we do, we expect 10 rupees, 20 rupees from you, from everything. So karma phala tyaga is not there. Karmanyevadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. So whatever action we do, we want something back. That is in the karma. And whatever love we give, we want that in return from our relatives. And whatever we contribute in our organization, we want recognition and promotion. All these things are there. But now you are, as I said so many things, and you read so many things, The small drops are coming and put into this. But this dirty water is so much that this drop is nothing in front of that. But Patanjali says no. This water has its effect, it will purify. How he gives it? He gives an example of the. He gives an example, maybe Vyasa in his commentary. A prince somehow is lost from the palace and he is taken to the Kiratakas. Kiratakas means the people dwelling in the forest, very, people who do all sorts of things, robbery and killing the animals and all that. Those people have taken him and he has become a Kirataka with them. He is also acting like those brutes who are there. But the minister of that kingdom was confident that this our young prince is still alive. He is somewhere. He is lost somewhere. So he goes on searching his prince, and finally reaches the forest, and goes and sees that Yuvaraja is so kingly. He has become big. He immediately recognizes that he is our prince, and he goes and tells, "Hey, you are Tum Rajasi. You are a king." Then immediately he says, "Aham Rajasmi," because that samskara is there within always, and immediately he comes out of that and he is brought back. So this is the panacea. This is the beauty of the Vedanta. Even though you don't feel that experience that Aham Brahmasmi, but you repeat it. And finally, after 2 years, you will be seeing that by your spiritual practices, this is not destroyed at all. It cannot be destroyed. The good things, whatever you have heard, whatever you have done, in spite of our vast tendencies, the older tendencies, that's what we call vasana, samskara and all that, this will go and act and remove and purify and take us to the salvation. So we should keep on doing and keep on practicing. One day or the other, you will see the difference. Within few years, there will be a lot of difference in our attitude, in our daily work, with our attachment and detachment with our people. Finally, we had to get detached with all those things. That kind of detachment has to come, and that comes through the spiritual practices, living with the saints, living with the devotees, and doing some service to the people.
Thank you very much, Swamiji.
Thank you, Maharajji. Aparnadi, do you have anything to say or ask or observe? Aparnadi, I think you are there. Do you have anything to ask?
No, Maharaji, Namaskar. It's beautiful lecture. I really enjoy your lecture. No more question, but really had to think of this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Partho, would you like to ask the last question today? Partho, do you want to ask something?
Pranam Maharajji, just a small clarification. I think what you have said in your lecture kind of is a balancing theme of both self-restraint and serving the society, and also bring everybody at par with oneness and happiness. And if this ultimate goal is, I think, achieved, probably the spiritual oneness will come. I think this is what probably we try to kind of learn through the teachings of Thakur Ma and Swamiji. And I think maybe you will be able to throw more light on it. And that is how we need to probably communicate to the world at large, to the society at large.
You are absolutely correct that today's world is awakened society. I think the geographical borders will be erased, and all these military exercises that they are doing in Ukraine and Russia, even see in the snow, they are bombing. They are doing the military exercise, no doubt, but it is if you melt the ice with such a missiles, what will happen to this earth? So the man should realize all these are very, very silly and rubbish, and we should get united. We should not get divided. We know that it is difficult, but I feel with Thakur Swamiji's incarnation and Swamiji himself telling that within our organization will be here for 1500 years, lot of things will happen. People become spiritually awakened, and they come together and they realize, and they will save this earth, they will save the animals, they will pollute less, so that the human being is for Swamiji's wanted. Let human being be happy. So to make them happy, we should attack from all sides, so that people will come out of these differences and war, and let them read Upanishads and Vedanta properly or superficially, so that they will come out of this all petty negligence, differences, and make this world a habitual flesh for the human being in all levels.
Thank you, Swamiji. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maharajji. With this, I think we should conclude the formal part of the program. We'll have an informal session for 5 to 7 minutes. Before that, I'll end the program. Before ending the formal program, may I refresh you all about next Sunday's lecture by Swami Nikhileshwaranandaji, the president of Rajkot Ashram. He will speak on how to be happy at the same time, that is 3:00 p.m. India time, 5:30 p.m. Philippine, Hong Kong, Singapore time. And we would also like to share with you that we are going to celebrate the birthday of Thakur on Tithi Puja on 4th of March. And Samarpananandaji Maharaj ji, very, very senior monk of the order from Vivekananda University, will speak to us, will lecture on Thakur. So please try to join both the programs. From time to time, we'll keep informing. Every Sunday, we have program, and any other special program on birthdays, Tithi Puja, etc., some other special lecture, we'll keep knowing, keep letting you know. Now, I would request our friend Hiranya Mukhopadhyay to kindly give vote of thanks. Hiranya, mic is yours.
Okay, Maharaj, Pranam Maharaj, on behalf of all the devotees here in Manila, Philippines, and elsewhere, we offer our heartfelt pranam, thanks, and for this wonderful lecture, Maharaj. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You are standing on a beach?
No, Maharaj, this is just a background photo. I told Udaranandaji Maharaj before we joined, that I was earlier in Palawan. There's a beautiful place in Manila. Again, that was a background picture only. Today I am in a paradise beach. The Maharaj also jokingly telling me, I wish you were always there in paradise.
Thank you very much. Should I wait?
Yes, Maharaji, I'll just conclude the program. Then I'll invite you to come back. Thank you, Maharaji, for your time and giving us such a beautiful and such enlightened lecture, which will give us many takeaways. And thank you, everybody, for joining the program. And with a reminder that please join next Sunday at 3:00 p.m. India time and 5:30 p.m. Philippines, Singapore, Hong Kong time. And the topic is very, very important, like today's topic, how to be happy. Very, very crucial for householders and others. Now, I would close the program formally, and please give me 30 seconds of silence, and then I come back for the informal chit chat where people will say their pranam and namaskar and greetings to Maharaj ji. Just 30 seconds for me to close the program.